Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So Khadija is a wonderful client of mine that I worked with over the last year, almost, alhamdulillah, and bringing together her beautiful project, which we'll get into a little bit more in a moment. Thank you for doing this, Khadija. And I would love you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit, who you are, what you do.
So my name is Khadija Al-Jabri. I am a communications professional who has worked in my field for about the last 20 years. And I am also a social entrepreneur who has recently founded an organization called The Playmaker. A few years ago, while I was working for a government entity, I ended up going through some personal challenges. I ended up going through a divorce, and I found myself spending a lot of time in waiting rooms of courthouses and authorities and social service center. You would expect that when you're going down this journey in this day and age, you would get access to information relatively easily, relatively quickly, that it's succinct, it's comprehensive, it is clear, and it is relevant to what you are going through at the time. And as I sat in these waiting rooms, I learned that it wasn't, because what I was experiencing was that I was not just the only one who was lost in the midst of understanding the laws or understanding the processes or understanding the policies. It was other people like myself in the waiting room that were also struggling. While I was going through this, I realized one of the biggest challenges that you had in this sector, let's call it the social development sector, is misinformation. And due to that misinformation, a lot of people ended up in far worse situations than they originally started. And as a result, a lot of people tend not to seek for help. The global statistic of people actually seeking help when they are in socially traumatic situations is that it's only 27%, meaning that if a child is being abused, only 27% of children would be seeking for help. If a woman was going through domestic violence, then only 27% of women would be seeking help. That's the average number across most societal challenges. I would say it didn't have to be this way, and there has to be a way around overcoming some of these challenges. And being a communications professional, it kind of inspired me to start thinking about, okay, what are the gaps that we have? What are the communication gaps that we have in this sector? Fast forward a couple of years later, the idea developed into something much bigger than I originally envisioned. So what Playmaker is all about is that it's a social advocacy platform that focuses on addressing socially stigmatized challenges by shifting perspectives and shifting narratives through research, through informed dialogue, and by encouraging others to take a different look at what these challenges mean, or how they impact society, not just today, but potentially in the future as well. So mid last year, I said to myself, right, it's time. I figured out a methodology to how I would put this out into the world. But now I need the right people to help me develop it or bring it to life. And that's when I came across, subhanAllah, everything has divine timing. I am a complete believer of this. That's when I saw your LinkedIn profile on and how all the work that you were doing around brand development. And I thought to myself, okay, should I register? I don't know what's going to come out of it. I don't even know this person. And, for all I know, they'll probably get scared by my vision. They'll probably think like, oh my God, I don't want to be involved. Because I have had people in the past, when I was not in the right place, in the right time, they did kind of get put off because my energy was angry. I was angry, right? But because I took time to do the work, I think my demeanor was probably different when I approached you. When we started talking, you started making me think about all the questions I had to ask myself when it came to developing a brand. You made me think about beyond what I had originally thought in my business plan. Like I consider myself somebody who's been around the block when it comes to brand development. I've done a lot of projects, I've done a lot of brand development work, but I was always the client. I was always on the other side, right? And it's easier to do it for something that is corporate as opposed to doing it for something that is so personal. And there were times where you made me question, myself in terms of, is this really what I want to do? I won't lie, Ruqayya. There were days while we were doing the work, I've never told you this, but I thought to myself, oh my God, am I putting myself too much out there? It scared me. It scared me how big this could potentially be, number one. And number two, I was unsure of myself that I had what it took to bring it to life. But honestly, beyond the strategic side of things and creating the narrative and creating the direction for the brand, you also gave me confidence in myself, Ruqayya. You gave me confidence in myself. You gave the project confidence. And you also were technically the first person I ever worked on Playmaker with. I was from 2019 up until 2023, I was doing 2022, I was doing everything on my own, like writing the business plan, doing the research, trying to understand, how to go about it. I never had to brainstorm with anybody else around it, or I met you. I've never had to put myself in a situation where I had to get to work and be held accountable. So I thank you for that, giving me that, even though I was a client and this is what I wanted. At the same time, you made me accountable through the brand work. You made me feel like this is something that is manageable, it is doable. You gave me that confidence that this is something that can be brought to life, no matter how complex it sounds. You simplified it for me in my head. And now, within one sentence, I can tell people what Playmaker is. But in the past, I'd need at least 30 minutes of their time to explain what it is. And I'm known to talk a lot. I think you know that by now, Ruqayya. But I definitely would say that you helped me find my North Star for not just the brand. I would say for the whole idea, the whole I would, for the organization. I'm still coming to terms with it. Because it's still in its infancy, right? But essentially, you gave me the North Star to my startup. And with that North Star, I have been able to form a coalition of other people who want to be a part of it. And I have met some of the most brilliant people over the course of the last 1 year because of the work that we did together. Because now I know how to sell myself. Now I know how to, get partners on board. Now I know what to say when I have to represent Playmaker. And I think the biggest test for me was when I did the keynote speech at your summit. And because of all of the work that we did around the brand, I knew how to share my story. I knew how to talk about the things that I am adamant about wanting to change in the world. And I'll tell you a little secret. So, you know how I always say in our meetings that we are conditioned, our societies are conditioned because of old wives' tales, or because of, you know, whatever they've been taught in the, by their forefathers, what and whatnot, right? One of the most, or some of the most difficult people for me to shift perspectives with was my own family. And I actually invited them to my keynote at your summit, and I asked them to watch it. The one person that I did not expect would, I mean, my sisters, I knew they would be positive about it. I knew my husband would be, you know, supportive. But two people that I didn't expect it from was my own parents, because of, you know, their generation, and because of their view on the world, because of, you know, their upbringing. And as much as, you know, they have been very supportive in a lot of different endeavors in my life, we have never been the kind of family that, you know, puts out our business, if you like, right? Or talks about ourselves, or talks about things that we've gone through in the past. And they got it. They left that session and they got it, and they got the fact that, hey, I understand what you're trying to do, and may Allah put barakah in on your journey, because what I think you're doing is a great thing, and you're going to be potentially helping other people get out of these kind of situations. For me, that was my biggest triumph, because it signified that through the work that we have done, it has managed to prep me in a way that I can basically speak to anybody about it. If I can have some of the toughest audiences, which are my own parents are the toughest people to deal with in this situation. As much as I love them very much, and may Allah bless them with a long and healthy life, inshallah, ya Rab. But I feared talking to them the most about it. But I knew how to craft my messages in a way that was impactful, that was relevant, that was diplomatic, and all the things that I was worried about for many, many, many years. I overcame that challenge, and I cannot thank you enough, because it was through the work that we did that I managed, you know, to put that out there. And it was through the work that we did together. You have helped me enable a very difficult conversation. I think in my head, it was something completely different when we first started. And I know I wasn't always easy. I know I was difficult going back and forth. But I think I genuinely feel that it is something I want to live with. Like my brand at the moment, I feel like it's something I want to live with for a really, really long time. And even if I do a brand refresh at any point, I think I would come back to you directly. Like I would be like, so Ruqayyah, this is all the great things that we've done now. And now it's time for a brand refresh. And I just, whenever I look at the work that we did, it keeps me motivated. It keeps me excited. It keeps me going. My team is extremely small at the moment. A lot of the people I'm working with are working with me on a freelance basis. But through the brand work, you have not just helped me inspire audiences, but you have inspired other people to also want to be a part of it. So thank you for bringing that to life.
What would you say to someone who is on the fence about working with me?
Specifically, if they are in the inception, I would say, of their startup, and they even haven't figured themselves out completely, I would say work with Ruqayyah with your eyes closed, because She will help you figure out some of the things that in your mind are confusing. She will help put your North Star in terms of your identity and beyond. So I would definitely say, it is a no-brainer specifically for a startup. And if it came to more established organizations, so in my mind, this is what I think. I think a lot of organizations or startups or businesses or anything that needs branding, a lot of times brands or companies need a brand refresh or a brand development exercise when they're at the cusp of something big or at the cusp of changing their direction or their narrative, or at the cusp of shifting gears. And it can be a very tumultuous time. It can be a very time. It's the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night as a business owner, because you really just want to crack it and get on with it. But you have analysis paralysis. And I think no matter what stage you're in your entrepreneurial journey or your organizational journey, there is a lot of merit in working with somebody like you, because you challenge the other person. You make them confront the kind of questions that they probably haven't been asking themselves, but you also help them with the answers. A lot of times you guide them towards the right answers. You leave it for them to answer, but the thing is that it's almost like you're a bit of a playmaker yourself. Because you're setting them up for success, and you're setting them up to be on a path that aligns with them, in terms of their values, in terms of their authenticity, in terms of their promise, in terms of what they represent, as be it as individuals or as a group. But you put words to the confusion, you put identities to the confusion, and you put a vision. You actually helped me put my vision. So I would definitely say, if you are at the cusp of something big, Ruqayyah is your woman.